And that, look how that's separated. That is actually yellow, that yellow, sepia and cobalt. So if I had to re-stir it, it would come out to that sort of, okay. So how do we do it? Just a couple of ideas, and I'm not going to do it on there because I've got some big shapes. Everything does need to be outlined with a black pen. And yeah, so I just need one more shape in here. I'm just making shapes. Just make sure that your pen is waterproof. Oh, I'm going to have to drag it to there. Now, we can either do it wet on wet or wet on dry. So wet on wet is going to be softer. Wet on dry, you'll get more intense colour. I am going to, that's quite a difficult one. Yeah, okay, I've got a piece of cling film because I'm going to have another go at the cling film. So that was actually something like this mixed up. Look at that. Look at how that's. I'm going to add a bit more of my colour in there.
You're not tempted to use a square brush then, Sue?
You can if you want to. I've done everything with a round brush. You can use whatever brush you feel happy with. The square brush is more difficult to get into the circles, but because I'm going to put cling film on, now I'm going on to dry paper, which means I do not want anything to dry too quickly. So I'm having to keep that shape wet. Because it's cling film, I do need the surface to be wet, okay? Don't just want it damp. Right. Don't want any lines, I want it to be quite nice and smooth. That's it. Right. I'm taking my time, making sure that everything is right, okay? And I'm just going to put some cling film on, see what happens. That one it went over a bit, so I'm being a bit more careful. Just scrunch it around. Okay, so we'll leave that and see what happens. If we wet the shape, so if we wet that with dirty water, okay, so I'm not making it too wet, but I am just putting in a bit of, and I haven't got any of that mix, slap on the hand. I do tend to have a mix of my colours that are mixed up, and then I go in with stronger paint to get darker colours, or for my grading. So that was done. The yellow is raw sienna, and it was done wet on dry. Well, going outside the lines. I'm being in a hurry. Okay, so you can see the difference between wet on wet and wet on dry. Now, if I wanted to, I can start putting in slightly thicker paint, and it could be the same color or a different color. Okay, so I'm not going backwards and forwards, I'm just allowing that paint to drip off the end of the brush. It's just dripping. I don't really want it in there, or do I? No, let's leave it. Okay, just dripping. Quite happy with that. And let's put some salt on it. So now salt, as I've said before, I have covered up the majority of the holes so I can control how much salt comes off. As the shine leaves the paper, you can put some salt on. Now, I didn't want too much salt in the dark blue, so I've just shielded where I don't want the salt to go. Okay? So that's the salt. That's the cling film. That's the salt. What else am I using? I've done graded washes. All sorts that we can actually play with. Glazing. Let's change that. Okay. Now, 2 ways to glaze. We can either wet the whole shape, and I'm going to wet it with water. Very, very gently. I don't want to lift any colour. And then I'm going to put a bit of green only over this top end. And I don't want any hard edges. That's my slightly thicker, and I've got it here as well. So I'll just keep dropping. So I've now glazed another colour. Okay, so lots and lots of different techniques. The reason that I have got some of these in my well is because when you mix colours, like that one is